Brought to you by the United States Marine Corps.
Hello everyone and welcome into another installment of our Laxcast. I'm your host Sarah Chafee here with our lead analyst Jim Loftus. You can follow us on Twitter. We have a lot to talk about in this Laxcast, but you can follow Jim on Twitter at JLofty, is it?
JLofty.
You can see it on the graphic below. And also for all things lacrosse, hit up MaxLax OC. They have MaxLax LA and MaxLax SD, right, Jim?
That's right. And on Twitter, we're MaxLax LA or MaxLax Inc. INC for the OC division.
By the way, side note, love your shirt, lacrosse. I mean, you're sporting. You showed up today, Jim.
Shockingly, it's an Under Armour shirt that I picked up in Maryland. So, yeah.
Hey, well, I mean, East Coast, they're quite the hub out there, aren't they, for lacrosse? But we have so much to talk about, Jim, so let's get it going. Side note, viewers, we are recording this on a Wednesday morning purposely because last night, Tuesday, things got a little bit crazy, and we have so much that we need to talk about. So obviously, there were some big games, Jim, and that's going to do some shifting in our rankings. But first, let's talk about some of the big storylines. What happened last night?
Well, the big one was Palos Verdes from the LA half going down to Foothill and basically beating the pants off the Knights, 13-4. It was 6-1 at halftime, 8-2 going into the fourth. I've talked to a couple people this morning about that game, and PV just took them to the woodshed. There's really no other way to say it. We've been waiting for a while to see if there was somebody in the southern section that could handle Foothill, and from everything I'm told, Palos Verdes really handled them. So
here's my question. We've talked about it all season long. Could Foothill, could someone take them down? Out of all teams, did you think it would ever be Palos Verdes?
Palos Verdes is a really interesting team, and the most interesting thing to me about this game is that PV was coming off of spring break. They hadn't had a game in 12 days, and Foothill had. Foothill been playing consistently. So PV comes back from spring break. They got in a couple really good practices, I'm told, late last week and then Monday. And they went in Tuesday night, rested, confident, and won it from the outset. So
what some may consider rust, rust or rest. I guess rest paid off for them. All right, well then I guess we'll head into our boys' top 10 rankings because clearly there's going to be some shifts. So let's work through it, Jim. Let's pull up that graphic. We have a new number 10, Jim, with Oak Park. 9, San Clemente, 8, Westlake, 7, Chaminade, 6, we have Harvard Westlake, 5, Tesoro, 4, Foothill, 3, Palos Verdes, 2, Loyola, number 1, sitting pretty, is St. Margaret's. Now, they're 12-0. What are some of your biggest takeaways? As I mentioned, we have a new number 10 team, Oak Park, so they got into the rankings, but also let's talk about some of your other takeaways from our new top 10 this week.
Sure. So looking at the bottom there, Oak Park has now won 7 in a row. Last night they beat Sierra Canyon, which I believe is number 12 in the LA coaches poll. But Oak Park had a rough start to the season and lost a couple games, one that was a surprise and then one that they lost badly to Harvard Westlake. But suddenly they've turned it around and they've beaten a couple of ranked teams in a row now in that 7-game streak, and they're sitting at 10-4. So we bumped them ahead of Oaks Christian, who they have a head-to-head victory over, and knocked Oaks Christian out of the bottom of the rankings here. The other changes to the rankings are up at the top. So Foothill loses to Palos Verdes. Palos Verdes has an overtime loss to Loyola, but Loyola has an overtime loss to Foothill in the opening game. So how do you value those losses or those wins at different times of the year? And I'm looking at right now, Loyola, I've seen them a couple times in a row now. They're playing really, really well. That defense is solid. So ultimately, that's what caused Foothill to tumble all the way to 4. But also because this gives us something to talk about. This gives Foothill maybe some motivation to climb back up to the top. They do play St. Margaret's next week. I believe it's on the 17th. So that'll be one to watch. And Palos Verdes plays St. Margaret's this Saturday. So we still have plenty of opportunity for some of these top 4 teams here to sort of beat up on each other and figure out where they're going to get seeded come playoff time in another 3 weeks.
Right, and see what they're really made of. What's your big takeaway? Kind of looking forward, like you said, we'll preview games coming up, but Saturday, will it be kind of a test to see if Palos Verdes is really, the real deal? I mean, they did beat Foothill, but is this really, do you think this is something that could really solidify them being a real deal team?
It absolutely could. I mean, they are a real deal. Now, are they number one? Are they beat St. Margaret's on the road on a Saturday night? Real deal? We'll find out. Their defense is outstanding. It's the offense has been a little bit inconsistent. They're very young on offense. They start a couple of freshmen on the attack line, and I think that has affected them a little bit here and there. They had their face-off guy had been injured, Colin Fitt. He came back after spring break and played last night, and I'm told dominated the face-off dot, so they had possession. So they play Sierra Canyon on Thursday and then go down to St. Margaret's. So they could come in, gangbusters. They could come in on a roll and hand St. Margaret's its first loss, or they could have a letdown after this game, and that's they're high school kids. You never know what they're going to do from one game to the next. So that'll be a really interesting one to watch.
Could definitely shake up those top 10 rankings. That's something to definitely look forward to. Speaking of top 10, let's move to the ladies side of things, Jim. Let's pull up our girls top 10 bracket. At number 10, you'll see we have San Clemente, 9 Trabuco Hills, 8 San Juan Hills, 7 Aliso Niguel, 6 Santa Margarita, 5 Redondo Union, 4 Palos Verdes, 3 is Mater Dei sitting at number 2. We have Foothill, and sitting at number 1 on the ladies side of things, we also have St. Margaret. So what are some of their big takeaways from the top 10 this week, Jim? Well,
no changes at the top. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 remain the same. But we have a little movement at the bottom where these teams are sort of all bunched up and they keep beating each other and then moving 1 or 2 spots one way or the other based on the head-to-head results. So Aliso, which was number 9 last week, beat San Juan Hills, which we had in at number 7. That was last night's game. So that juggled that a little bit. But I believe San Juan also has a head-to-head win over Trabuco. I think that I'd have to go back and look because these teams all play each other and they seem to all beat each other. But looking at Trabuco, they're 5-5, and we had them 8 last week. They slipped 1 to 9. Record's only 5-5, but 4 of those 5 losses are to top 10 teams, so somewhat forgivable. That's a good team even with the 5 losses. And then San Clemente holds down number 10 where they were last week.
As you mentioned, not much movement as you go near the top. St. Margaret's, Foothill, and Mater Dei, just keep winning. However, St. Margaret's did lose to the Novato team. However, you were saying that, a bad loss, 19-1, but, those Northern California teams are very good up there, aren't they?
Yeah, and that Novato team has lost 2 games in the last 3 seasons. And so the question was, the best in OC going against the best from the Northern California area, how would they fare? Mm-hmm. That was ugly at 19-1. But St. Margaret's came right back and won big over Los Al last night. So it it didn't seem to be a hangover effect from that one. And the other interesting game that we haven't talked about yet is Palos Verdes, which had beaten Redondo and moved up to number 4 in this poll. They had a loss at Kate School up in Carpinteria over the weekend, and Kate is now undefeated at 6-0. The schedule's maybe a little bit suspect. They haven't played a whole lot of games, only 6 games, where you're looking at others who have played 9 and Mater Dei's played 13. So we have Kate sitting on the bubble at 6-0, and we didn't drop Palos Verdes for that loss because PV was missing two key players. It was a spring break game, and two key players weren't there. So we'll give them a little bit of a pass and see how they come back from that, and leave them there at 4 with Redondo 5. And those two teams have one more Bay League matchup against each other coming up here. So we'll see how the middle of that ranking shakes out.
So potentially Kate could scoot into the top 10 rankings depending on the shifting, but you were saying they don't really have that their schedule is a little suspect. Could you see them pushing through into the top 10, Jim?
Absolutely. They have a couple of really good offensive players. And last year that team made it to the semifinals of the LA playoff division before Chaminade beat them, and then Chaminade lost to Redondo Union in that LA championship game. So it's a good program, but being way up in Carpinteria, they don't make very many road trips south. So they don't play many of the stronger teams from the LA area. They win a lot of games against some lesser competition, and once a year they'll play a PV or a Chaminade or someone, an Oak Park perhaps, to really test themselves. But they remain a bit of a mystery. They were ranked, I think, 13th in the LA coaches poll until this victory, and suddenly they jumped up into the top 10. So, and someone I know up there said that they like being something of the unknown,
cryptic, huh?
and taking teams by surprise, which I'm pretty sure PV was a bit surprised, even missing two top players.
Hey, not a bad way to look at things. I'm going to start calling them Cryptic Kate. We'll see if Cryptic Kate can make it into the top 10. Let's transition now to one of my favorite parts of the Laxcast. This is our game ball recipients. So cool to see athletes of all ages coming from all over with outstanding performances that certainly deserve our recognition. So let's get right into it. Let's start on the boys' side of things. Who gets a game ball this week?
Well, let's start with the Palos Verdes defense.
Good place to start.
I don't have stats from that game yet. I don't have ground balls or saves, but they were the first team to hold Foothill into single digits this season, and they held them to 4. So the game ball starts with goalie Kyle McCann. But then their 5-man defensive rotation of Kyle McBride, Hart Swan, Neil Randall, Josh Park, and Brandon Clark combined. And I don't have the D-Middies names, so shout out to them as well. But those are the 5 long pole defenders and LSMs that limited that Foothill offense to 4 goals.
Wow, outstanding performance to the entire PV defensive squad. You guys all get a game ball.
And a few other guys definitely worth mentioning from last week. A couple had big weeks on their spring break trips. Quentin Buckman from Santa Margarita scored 10 goals in 3 games up in Northern California. And Alex Paz of Servite, he's a junior. He had 14 points in 3 games, including 6 goals and 2 assists in a win over Sal Point Catholic of Arizona. I believe that was Sal Point's first loss. It's hard to tell how good a team that is coming, from out of state, but they were 8-0, and Servite beat him, and he had 6 in that game, so good for him. And then Rhett Farmer of Newport Harbor, a sophomore. You talk about kids of all ages getting in on the act. Sophomore attack had 7 goals and an assist in a 13-12 overtime win over Los Alamitos. That one assist, came on the game-winning goal in overtime.
Wow!
So,
congratulations.
Definitely. And we have a couple girls as well. We talked about Kate School. Their duo of junior Maddie Erickson had 8 goals in that win over Palos Verdes, and senior Bree Walker had 5. So those two especially are ones to watch down the road. Emma Hodges of Redondo had 5 goals and 8 ground balls, keeping possession in the hands of the Seahawks in their victory over Beckman. And then junior Ava Brand from Foothill had a pretty good week. 5 goals and an assist against Corona Del Mar, 4 goals and 4 ground balls against Newport Harbor. And then she had a goal last night in their 8-7 win over Santa Margarita.
That's awesome. Congratulations to all of those game ball recipients, certainly deserving. Now that we've talked about the previous week, let's look ahead, Jim. We've got some things to look forward to and certainly some opportunities to shake up our top 10 ranking. So let's give it to them. What are the games to be on the lookout for this upcoming week?
Well, we talked about the big one on Saturday, Palos Verdes at St. Margaret's. There's a few others that are worth mentioning. Tonight, Oaks Christian is at Westlake. It's a Marmoni League game. Westlake is, where are they now? Number 8 in our rankings, and Oaks Christian just dropped out, so they're sitting right there on the bubble. So that's a big one in the Marmoni League. Thursday, Loyola goes down to San Diego. They continue to schedule these tough out-of-conference and out-of-area games, even this late in the season. So they're down at Cathedral Catholic. Foothill is at Santa Margarita on Saturday. And then Trabuco Hills, which has sort of been on our bubble, they're 8-2 on the season. They get a real test with Corona del Mar, a home game for Trabuco. But CDM is not the same as they've been in years past, but they do tend to get better as the season progresses. So we'll see what Trabuco can do against those guys. And then the last one to mention, well, actually two more. San Clemente at Tesoro on Saturday. Tesoro's undefeated. Didn't play last week, so I believe they might have another game this week. I'm not positive. But this will be a good test, and we've had a few questions about San Clemente, which they've started to answer, but this will be a good one. And then next Monday, Harvard Westlake is at Santa Margarita, so that's another good one. Santa Margarita is still just outside our rankings. Harvard Westlake has lost 3 in a row now, 2 in San Diego over spring break, and now to Loyola last night. So we'll see how they do in another tough matchup.
And then the big one on Tuesday, right? Foothill at St. Margaret's.
Then the big one next week, which, depending on when we tape this, if we delay it to Wednesday morning again, we might be able to talk about that one.
Just have to do that, huh?
But yeah, so we'll have Foothill at St. Margaret's next Tuesday, and then another one up here, Chaminade, which is number 4 in the LA coaches poll, is at Loyola, which is number 1 in the LA coaches poll, and that's also another Mission League matchup. So
it's almost like the night before Christmas. You're like, how this could either completely shake up the rankings, or things could stay possibly as is. So very exciting to look forward to. Let's go to the girls' side of things, Jim. What are some games people need to look out for this upcoming week?
Well, tonight, Wednesday night, Mater Dei is at Santa Margarita, so that's a good one between 2 ranked teams. And then Los Alamitos at Beckman on Friday. Mentioned Kate School earlier. They don't make too many trips south. They do come down to play Birmingham Charter on Friday, and Birmingham is in the top 10. I want to say 8 in the LA coaches poll. So they're a decent team. So this will be a test for Kate if they can stay undefeated. Monday, we've got a game between 2 bubble teams for our top 10. Westlake is at Oak Park, which is a good test out in the Conejo Valley. And then next Tuesday, there's a bunch. We talked about the bottom half of that ranking where everyone just sort of keeps playing each other and beating each other. Well, Trabuco Hills is at Aliso Miguel on Tuesday. San Juan Hills gets a real test. They're at St. Margaret's, number 1 St. Margaret's. And then Mater Dei takes another out-of-area trip down to San Diego to take on Cathedral Catholic. So some of these teams are not shying away from really tough games down the stretch, hoping, I guess, to prepare themselves for really tough games in the playoffs.
I like that a lot. All right, well, next Tuesday looks like a great day looking ahead. That'll be certainly something to look forward to, but that pretty much does it for our review of last week, our preview of the week to come, our top 10 rankings and game balls. We would love to hear from you guys, so reach out to us because we can't be at all the games, but we certainly love giving game balls out to everyone deserving. So please hit us up. Jim and I are on Twitter, or you can comment in the comments below. But Twitter is probably the easiest way to get a hold of us, at least for me, right, Jim?
Yeah, Twitter works. You mentioned it earlier. It was on the graphic, J Lofty, or hit me up at MaxLaxLA, and I see those all the time as well.
Absolutely, and if you need a recap of any of the games, check out MaxLax LA, MaxLax OC, and MaxLax SD. It's kind of fun to read those SD ones because you're up there in LA, I'm up here in Orange County. But these San Diego teams are powerhouses as well, so kind of fun to read from all over Southern California, but MaxLax has you covered, that's for sure. So that does it for another SCPI Southern Section Laxcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Also, one more reminder, please let us know what you want us to talk about. If there's a team you're wondering, why aren't they in the top 10 rankings? Why are they so low? Why are they so high? Reach out to us. We love feedback, and we love to get in contact with you guys. So we will talk to you soon, and we'll see you next week because we'll once again have a lot to talk about.
We will.
All right, Jim, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right, Sarah, take it easy.